So, you want to get good at Rainbow Six Siege? Well, you've come to the right place. With Operation Shifting Tides just coming out not too long ago, and free-to-play weekends here and there that are attracting a lot of new players, the community is growing rapidly and lots of people really have no idea what the f they're doing. But don't worry, Crabdash is here, you are safe now. With this video, I will do my best to give you as many tips as I can that I wish I would have known from the start in order to get better and feel more comfortable playing this game. Stick around to the end where I'll leave a bunch of mini quickfire tips that will definitely help you in the long run as a new player. Without further ado, let's get straight into the tips. First tip is that you need to understand rank does not equal your skill. There are tons of pro players that have talked about how there is not a direct correlation between your rank and your game skill, and that can just be seen in general in this team-based shooter where your rank isn't dependent on you yourself, but also the 4 other team members that you happen to play with. You can get 20 kills in a match, but if your team loses, you will lose your elo and your rank will drop. Does that mean you're a bad player? No, not at all. And that's why this video is called How to Get Better, not How to Rank Up. Think of it this way, you can keep losing games over and over, but that doesn't mean you're becoming a worse player. In fact, every match you will learn something new, whether it be about a map, a certain gadget, etc. And in a team-based game, you could be queued with 4 of the most dog shit teammates, which is what usually happens when you try solo queuing, and you will lose due to no fault of your own. So, when you're a beginner and even an intermediate or advanced player, if your main goal is to improve your game skill, look away from your rank because it really doesn't equal how good you are. The second tip I have for you guys is to take advantage of training/beginner match types Siege has to offer. As of the new season, players are now able to play situations, terrorist hunt, quick play, unranked, and ranked game modes. Midway through editing, I realized I totally forgot about the newcomer mode. I personally have never played it, however it seems very helpful for new players, as long as there's no sweaty Smurf accounts or people coming from console to PC. If you're a Smurf or a level 300 console sweat that just got a new PC, just skip newcomer mode and stop dicking on the new players. Anyways, you've probably heard this one already if you've watched any other videos on how to get better, but terrorist hunt is basically the best way for newer players to get comfortable with many aspects of the game. First off, terrorist hunt will test your aiming and positioning skills, getting you used to how the guns work and feel, as well as how to get comfortable with leaning and strafing mechanics that this game has to offer. Terrorist hunt can also help you with the third tip I have, which is learning how to navigate the maps. Getting familiar with the maps in Rainbow Six Siege is by far the most important thing a new player can do. A majority of your deaths in the beginning of this game will be due to poor map knowledge, and this is a fact. A great example of this idea is pro gamer Shroud. You guys probably know Shroud, he is notorious for his nutty aiming, but he has been faced with the harsh reality that this game rewards good aim and game knowledge equally. Knowing the maps in this game is the hardest part about getting good in my opinion, as the more you know about the maps, the more options you have on how to solve problems throughout the round. Shroud is used to picking up games and just completely destroying his competition. However, when you see Shroud get into higher plat and even diamond level games, you see him dying more and more often, not because he can't out-aim his opponents, but because his opponents know way more about the maps and how to strategically outplay him every single time. If you've ever watched Coconut Bros videos or even a single round from an esports professional R6 tournament, you will see them destroying parts of the map that you didn't even know existed, creating angles that no one would have even thought of because of their advanced map knowledge. And overall, this can be the difference between winning and losing a round. So, to tie this into the last tip, in Terrorist Hunt, you can use matchmaking preferences to choose which map you spawn into, either allowing all or turning off certain ones. I recommend starting out with bunches of 3 to 4 maps and starting up Terrorist Hunt Classic. Terrorist Hunt Classic is my choice because Terrorist Hunt Classic does not have an objective, unlike the hostage or bomb type that they have. In Terrorist Hunt Classic, you can just run around and kill all of the terrorists with no objective, as I said before, and overall you will be learning the maps as well as how to move your character very well. While there isn't a Terrorist Hunt Classic for defense because that wouldn't really make sense, make sure to switch to Protect Hostage in order to get used to defender guns and gadgets as well. And while Terrace Hunt is a very useful tool in getting better at the game, you will eventually need to jump into quick play or an unranked in order to learn tip 4, which is making sure you're caught up with the meta. The meta, which stands for most effective tactic available, something I did not know until I started this video, is exactly what it means. The meta in this game often shifts very heavily after a new season release or even when operators get nerfed or buffed. A good example is when Mira first came out. There was a double Mira strat that many like to use. However, a lot of people stopped using it due to the fact that you could just reinforce one side of the wall and then leave the other side unreinforced to either throw a C4 over or to just wallbang through the Mira. Although still popular, the bait and switch tactic was very popular back in Velvet Shell. People still use it now, but it used to be very popular and was one of the strongest metas in the game back then. A good example of a meta that was short and didn't really last long is when Alibi first came out. A lot of the times the metas like these will come when people are not familiar with how the operator works exactly. In this case, it was Alibi's clones. Alibi could place down her clone and then stand right over it and would trick a lot of players into thinking she was a clone when she actually wasn't. And while yes, this is still used now, it's not nearly as relevant as it was in the beginning of the season in which Alibi came out. And while it's sad to say, glitches will always become part of the meta here and there. For example, some of you will remember when players used to use their shotguns to destroy the floor, which sees the enemies from planting. It's really stupid and sometimes you have to really get around it. Clash has been broken for a long time now and you have to just get used to it. But overall, Ubisoft has been doing a really good job at patching a lot of these glitches, and usually it will only be the meta for maximum a week or two. All these tactics will be picked up by the community sooner or later, and you will struggle to get better if you don't pick up on them as well. A good way to pick up on these metas is to either use observational learning and watch your teammates. In this case, it would be to pick up the patterns where people usually reinforce, where people usually open holes, how and where they use their gadgets, etc. Or you could subscribe to many popular Siege YouTubers such as previously mentioned Coconut Bra, Macy J, Matimio, etc., who usually make videos regarding new meta changes and tactics that they find, which end up being universally accepted within the Siege community. The fifth tip I have for you guys is to focus more on influencing the round rather than getting more kills. There are over 50 operators with unique abilities that can help you sway the influence of the round in your favor, depending on how you use them in combination with your team. However, every one of them has a gun and the potential to kill someone. You can kill 4 players on the enemy team, but if the last guy kills your entire team, your kills essentially meant nothing that round. Each round is its own game, and your job is to influence every aspect of that round for the entire 3 minutes to your team's advantage. Yes, kills do help influence, however there are many other ways of doing so. Blocking out key choke points, using gadgets as intended, or even in abstract ways to deny the enemy's team information, and overall just wasting the other team's time in order to gain you guys more time to strategically plan out your next move. Even when you think about a roamer, which is usually a 3-speed operator who stays outside of the objective, their main mission isn't to just kill the entire enemy team, although that would be ideal. It is to waste their time and stop the attack from happening so fast, and overall it's just to distract the attacking team from pushing into the OBJ. If you think about it, as a roamer, by staying outside of the objective, the enemy team will not only have to spend more time droning you out, but they will also constantly be checking their flank angles and also be watching out and playing slower overall, weakening their attack as a whole. This applies to all team-based games, however Siege really rewards thoughtful play rather than kill-hungry sweats. The next tip is regarding the ops in the game, and it is tip number 6, which is to pick some useful mains, but also know how to play a mixture of everyone. Some people just do not need to be played. Looking at the general picks in comparison to their win-loss ratios, some ops are just so deep down in the scale that it's going to take a huge change to restore their usability. However, knowing how to play everyone is a strength that everyone should have. Whether it's because you just started and you probably only have a limited amount of operators, or you just think IQ is super thick and you choose her because everyone wants to just stare at her ass, you probably just find yourself getting really comfortable with 1 or 2 ops on both attack and defense, and getting really used to their guns, their speed, and their gadgets. This is great, however, don't be that one guy who cries like a bitch when he doesn't get his main and then blames the loss on the fact that he wasn't able to use him or her, usually Ash mains. Get comfortable with all ops, however focus to improve heavily on very helpful operators that are part of the meta. Currently, the meta is very supportive of 2 tanks, 1 info, 1 anti-breacher, and 1 roamer on defense, and 1 to 2 hard breachers, 1 to 2 bandit or cade counters, and 1 soft breacher on offense. Although this is not always the case, it is usually the general rule of thumb. Some operators don't fall into any of these categories, but they can still be very helpful. For beginners, the best go-to tanks are Rook and Echo, the best informational defenders are Valkyrie, Maestro, and Mira, the best and only anti-breachers are Mute, Bandit, and Cade, and the best roamers are Jaeger, Vigil, and Kavera. This is all my opinion, by the way. Some people will find that they don't like someone's guns or just how they play overall, and that's completely fine. Just make sure that you're comfortable with the overall positioning rather than the actual operator. Moving on to attack, the best hard breachers will be Thermite and Hibana. Occasionally you will want to use Maverick if the opposite team is bandit tricking, however most of the time you're good with just Thermite or Hibana. Soft breachers, I will go with Sledge and Zofia. Zofia is by far one of the best operators, and I think she is a must-have for anyone who is new to the game. And lastly, you're going to need some sort of way to stop the bandit, cades, or mutes, in which that will be either a Thatcher or a Twitch. Keep in mind, sometimes your teammates will not always cooperate with you and will play some funky combinations, but honestly, you never know what will work. Sometimes we will run all 1 speeds and will surprisingly be able to hold down the objective very well. Vice versa, we will go through the exact planner that I just previously mentioned and get clapped every round even after using our abilities to the best of our abilities. It all just depends on the round and how it's working out for you. Sometimes you just gotta try out what works best for you and stick with that. Tip number 7 is to value information heavily in this game. By information, I mean anything useful that you can use to benefit you or your team. By information, I mean anything useful that could benefit you or your team. The best ways to gather information are from either cameras or from your headset. Starting with attackers, you will always have 10 sources of information, which will be 2 drones per operator, which you should preserve and keep an eye out on flanks and main choke points. However, many seem to immediately jump their drone into the OBJ and get it destroyed in the drone phase. A quick tip, if you know where the OBJ is, either from hearing it or from seeing it from afar, just call it out to your teammates and each of you can save your drones for later in the round where it actually matters. On the defender side of things, you can have way more than 10 sources of information. Right off the bat, defenders are automatically granted access to cams all over the map, which are inside and outside of the buildings. You must learn those, by the way. There are defenders such as Valkyrie, Maestro, Echo, and Mozzie, and they even have some with the option of bulletproof cameras such as Kavera, Vigil, Castle, and more. Overall, you need to really value these cameras. Make sure that if you're playing Valkyrie, to not just throw your cameras anywhere, but find somewhere where it can truly gain a lot of information and can really help your teammates overall. If you're playing as an attacker, make sure to preserve those drones. They are very, very, very helpful, and do not just take them for granted. As promised, here are some quickfire tips that weren't big enough to be expanded on, but definitely important. Never reinforce in between sites. Never reinforce kid's bedroom. Invest in some nice ass headphones. If you're gonna rush, don't have diffuser with you. Aim for the head, they are always one-shot kills. Crawling on the ground is very loud, so don't think you're sneaking up on anyone. Improve your aim. Get an aim trainer and practice on your weaknesses. I recommend Aim Lab. Watch other tip and trick videos. A good example is Coconut Bra. I have said his name like 3 times this video. Please go check him out. Learn the callouts based on the maps. It doesn't have to be very specific. All you have to say is red stairs or top hatch. And on that note, don't give out callouts that aren't true. The most common being, yeah, he's one shot. And finally, always bow down to the king. But yeah guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys picked up at least one new thing from this video. I know there are tons of videos like these and I highly recommend going through all of them. Don't just watch one and listen to what I have to say or what someone else has to say. Every player is different, and it's your job to figure out what kind of player you are and how you want to play the game. Overall, you should be trying to get better, but don't forget that it's just a game and you should just have some fun. I love this game so much, and it has been out for 4 years strong, and we don't even know what the future has in store for us. So hopefully you guys will stick around with Siege as I have and enjoy it to the best that you can. Anyways guys, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Make sure to comment down below if I missed any tips. Maybe you guys could go look down there and find some tips that other people have to mention as well. And yeah, let's dash to the next video.